Welcome back. 20 minutes ahead of 9 o'clock. You know, there are plenty of legitimate reasons why some of us can't get our taxes done in time for the filing deadline. If that's the case for you, there are steps you need to take care of now in order to avoid big problems. And we've got you covered with that. Here with what you need to know is Shari. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Big problems if you didn't take care of it. But, you know, let's get started. Many of us actually wind up missing the tax filing deadline, which is kind of strange this year because you had an extra 3 days. It's usually the 15th.
Right.
You had until the 18th, but it happens.
It happens. Over 13 million of us actually don't file by yesterday's deadline. And the reasons for that, John, I mean, we don't have the paperwork we need. We run out of time, like we were talking about before. We always say we're going to plan ahead.
Right.
Or for some people, they don't file because they don't have the money to pay the taxes and are concerned. But here's the thing. Today, that's not a huge problem. You're going to owe a little bit of a fine, not too much. If you wait, it's going to become a big problem. That's because the IRS actually has two penalties that you pay. One for not filing, which begins at 5% a month and goes all the way up to 25%. The other for not paying. So even if you don't have the money, you need to get that extension filed, you need to get your tax return filed, because that's actually the bigger of the two penalties. Right. That's not to say not to be careful, because there's an even bigger penalty for filing a frivolous tax return, but you need to get it filed.
Uncle Sam doesn't mess around. I mean, eventually they'll catch up with you.
Yeah, you don't mess around.
And the penalties are not good. All right, so what should someone who has missed the tax filing deadline do at this point?
Well, anyone who's not filed the Form 4868, which is the extension of time, needs to do that like today. And you can do that online at irs.gov.
That gives you until when?
It gives you until October 15th,
oh,
6
great.
months. Plenty of time. Don't start looking at it again October 13th or 14th. The problem with that for some people is that you're supposed to pay at least 90% of the tax that's due. But here's the thing, that tax on the failure to pay actually accrues on the amount that you don't pay. So even if you don't have the 90%, whatever you have, you should pay now so that the penalty will at least be smaller.
Something is better than nothing. And what if you weren't able to file because maybe you were away, you were in the hospital or something like that, or like you said, you just didn't have the money?
Well, if you have a legitimate excuse for not having filed, so for example, you were in the hospital, you were out of the country, something like that, you actually can get a different extension until June 15th. If you don't have the money, though, the IRS is actually prepared for that. So you need to request either an installment payment plan. If, for example, if you owe under $10,000, you can pay that generally in about 3 payments, up to 72 payments for people who owe money and can't afford to pay it. If the installment plan is not even going to work for you, you can request an offer to compromise where the IRS will actually negotiate down what you owe. But the point is, they do have boxes for folks in that situation, because look, you know, some people don't plan, some people plan, and things change, some people lose their jobs, whatever the case is. The point is to deal with it this year, and next year the best way to avoid this is to pay as you go. You can penalty proof yourself so that you don't end up with that failure to pay penalty.
Every month, every quarter, something like that, right? And again, the government doesn't mess around. There you have it. Thank you, Shari, for being here and explaining it to us today. Felicia's very